And now, from beyond our dimension, this is the JeffMara podcast. Here's Jeff.
My guest is Kathryn Annis, owner and founder of the Dawning Institute, who had a near-death experience at the age of 17, which we're going to learn about and more. Kathryn, thank you for joining me and welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Jeff. I appreciate your time.
Kathryn, if you don't mind, can we start on the day that you died and go from there?
Absolutely. The night that I died wasn't unlike most nights. It was I'm going to say a balmy, slightly warm, early summer, late spring evening. And because of that, I had the window slightly open to allow a slight breeze. And where I lived, it was once upon a time a farming community, bedroom, cul-de-sacs, whatnot. And so I could hear the cows and horses grazing in the fields at night, and once in a while the train going by. It's one of the things that I do miss. But that night, I remember going to sleep, and whether it was the enormity of psychiatric medications that I was erroneously prescribed, or the fact that I had sleep apnea passed down from my father, the cause will probably never really be pinpointed. I remember finally being able to fall asleep. And there was some sort of dream happening. I can't really remember the series of events, but it stopped. And all of a sudden there was just this beautiful, very bright white light that just shone down upon me. I was completely immersed in it. And I remember the colors just beaming off of each other. I remember having this feeling of love and warmth, joy, peace, comfort. I felt like I was home, a home that I didn't know in this life, but a home that I've known for a very long time. And I was ascending, and I took my right hand and I pulled it up into the apex. My left hand, my left arm was by my side, slowly rising, and just before I got to the apex, just before I could put my hand through, the voice of my brother, who had passed away 7 years before, came down lovingly through and told me that I had to go back. He told me it wasn't my time. And I saw a poster actually a few years ago. I think it's a TV show. I've never seen it. It's called The Expanse, but it shows the graphic of a person falling backwards with their arms and their legs outstretched. And that's exactly what happened. This force just pushed me back. And I remember screaming, no, I don't want to go back. I don't want to go back to that abuse. I don't want to go back to that life. I don't want to go back to what was going on. And I never knew why I was sent back until maybe a couple years ago. But that love, it has really eradicated the fear that many people feel of death. I no longer fear dying. When it's my time, I will embrace it. I'm not trying to accelerate it, but when it comes, I know it's going to be spectacular.
Kathryn, thank you for sharing your experience with us. After you came back, did you notice that you had any new abilities that you didn't have prior?
Well, when I came back, I remember that I had gasped for breath. My lungs stung. My joints were stiff. My heart felt like it was going to beat out of my chest. My mind was racing. I didn't know what was going on. When I finally was able to calm down, I'm just, oh my God, I died. Oh my goodness, I just died. I went in to see my mom and told her what happened. And all I really remember of that conversation was her telling me that go back to bed. It was just a dream. Don't wake me up like this for your, basically for your nonsense. I have to go to school in the morning. I can't have you waking me up like this. Everything in my life, you could pretty much sum into that one interaction. And because of the medications, everything was dulled down. The abilities that I may have had, or to be honest, it could have come from growing up in an abusive household. I have the ability to read energies. I feel when people are hiding something. I can read the energy of a room. I know if I'm going to be safe there or not. I know when people's are not exactly telling me everything, or if they're just outright lying. I I had to put my dog down a week ago. And the only reason why I bring this up is because even before the vet could pronounce her gone, I felt her soul leave. So I can feel things. I just have this knowing. And sometimes it can be a gift, but other times people have told me that I'm intimidating because I just know. It's one of those things I have to be really careful of. I'm also able to perceive patterns quite easily, whether it comes to politics, economics, human psychology. I'm able to pinpoint behavioral patterns. I'm able to follow history and be able to, well, people say predict the future. I say that this is a continuing pattern. If you're able to disrupt the pattern, you're able to make change for the better. If you learn from history, it's probably the best thing that we can do. But yeah, patterns, feeling energies, being able to ascertain whether someone's being truthful or not. I only got my mind back about 3 years ago, so I'm still working on not only how to, let's say, control the impulses, but to communicate what I perceive, what I feel in a loving manner so that it doesn't cause any kind of harm or even aversion. That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to unify. I'm trying to give hope. I'm trying to show love in the best way that I can. And I believe that truth is a form of love. It can be given in a gentle way. And sometimes I've noticed, especially with my childhood, I sometimes don't communicate that truth that I perceive as gentle. So that's also something I'm working on.
You mentioned earlier that you found out why you were sent back. Can you tell us why?
I was sent back to experience the depths of pain and brokenness, greed, corruption. I was sent back to be the healer in a way. I was sent back to use my voice, because my voice, I have found, is my most powerful asset. That was the first thing that was stolen from me. And at 16, it was my mind. So I was sent back to heal all of those who, like me, have been harmed by the very systems we have come to trust. And I unify healers that believe that the mind, body, soul connection is the one connection that we really need to focus on. And although Western medicine has made quite a few advancements for the better, it's also caused quite a bit of harm. So my goal ultimately is to work in conjunction with, not in opposition thereof. And so what I do now is I unify other healers, other service providers, other practitioners, whether it's Reiki or nutrition, counseling, physical fitness, really everyone that believes in the mind, body, soul connection under this one unity goal. We're here to help the people not only in Seattle, but I had some people reach out from other states as well to start a national network. And that's something I didn't even dream of when I was first putting my institute together, when I first had this epiphany. And so the one thing I know from my years of doing healing on my own, and also with a coach, Reiki master, Qigong, journaling, meditation, physical fitness, nutrition, all of that. I'm living proof that it works. And when something is, let's say, divinely guided, things start to fall into place. And that's what I've noticed has been happening with me, especially recently. this book that I'm a part of. It was a random Facebook post that got my attention, just asking for people that have had near-death experiences to reach out and maybe be a co-author. I figured, why not? I am in my season of yes. New experiences lead to new opportunities, which can lead to new miracles. This is one of them. And that led to something else. It really led to other people reaching out, believing in what I'm doing, and seeing how much value that this has, how much potential we all have. And it's just been this amazing journey. I couldn't have even thought it up for myself if I tried.
Since you were sent back, does that mean that what you're doing now was decided by you pre-birth?
I'm going to go out on a limb here and say yes. And I only say that because I remember when I was very little, we're talking toddler, preschool, kindergarten age. I knew I was different. I knew I was meant for something big. I knew I was here for a reason. What it was, obviously at that time, it's not clear. And if it is to some people, they're not believed anyways. They're just a child. But yeah, at that point, looking back, I have to say that this is something that I chose pre-birth, that everything that I've gone through was for a reason. Although I half-heartedly joke around saying, I really want to read the terms and conditions of this contract because there is some shenanigans that have been going on that I do not agree with, and I might want a partial refund.
Well, why do you think there's so much suffering here on the earth?
There is so much suffering because humans have free will. We have choice. If we value money over human lives, you see what happens. There's war, greed. Look at the opiate epidemic. Look at the wars overseas. When we talk about things like, well, let's just say revolutions, Revolutionary War, French Revolution, everything has a cycle. And the suffering is part of that cycle. And when the people have finally had enough, and this comes down to each and every individual choice, when we have finally had enough and we say no more, things start to change. We do not realize at times how powerful we, the people, truly are. And so the suffering is meant to get us from one place to a, let's say, higher, more prosperous place.
What do you think is the best way to break the cycle of suffering?
Action. I'm an advocate for a reason. I know our voices have power. I know our actions and inactions have power. If you want to take a look at the current situation, our inactions and or actions, let's say, with Planet Fitness, their stock has dropped tremendously. Why? Because people believe something, they use the power of their choice to walk away. We have had the power all along. And let's say Starbucks, and they made this stance on what's going on with the Gaza. They lost a lot of business. Why? Because we have the power of choice. We as individuals can make a difference, and we have forgotten that right now. So the most powerful thing we do, the most powerful weapon we have against pain, against corruption, against, dare I say, evil itself, is our voice, is our action, and it is our time.
Has the memories of your experience faded over time?
Not by much. It was a very powerful experience. And even though I was disbelieved when it happened, it never left. So although I can say with certainty what I experienced is true, there are going to be people who won't believe me because it wasn't medically documented, or nobody, witnessed my passing, or, any of these other kind of excuses. And that's okay. That is okay. Everyone has an opinion. I'm not here to help the everyone. I am here to help those that choose to help themselves. And so, no, it has not truly faded. It has become solidified.
How are you inspired by your experience?
The inspiration comes from knowing, a deep knowing, that I have a purpose here. I wouldn't have been sent back if at 17 I had fulfilled my duties. I would not have been sent back if I was done in this lifetime, if I didn't have anything to offer, if there was no additional benefit to my life. What kept me going through those 21 years of misdiagnosis and maltreatment, at times I don't know. There comes a point in someone's life where sometimes you don't know how strong you are until being strong is the only choice you have left. Sometimes just laying in bed and breathing is the only thing you are capable of. And I know that pain, and I feel that darkness. And there is a way to overcome. So I know I am here for more. And yeah, when I took that leap and I created the LLC, I was afraid. But I'll tell you one thing for a fact. I would rather try and have stumbling block over stumbling block and finally get to the end point and succeed than lay in my deathbed and wonder what if. I think that's one of the biggest things that has come to my reality. I know that I wouldn't be able to live with myself if I had not just tried.
You mentioned that you got your mind back about 3 years ago. Was it due to the multidisciplinary approach that you're using at the Dawning Institute?
The catalyst for that was when I was laying on the bed, I should say sitting on the bed, and I was feeling like I wanted to end everything. And I was looking at these pills that I had in my hand. Mind you, I was misdiagnosed at 16 with a multitude of psychiatric illnesses I never had because I spoke up against my mother's abuse and she wouldn't have that. So my voice, my life was stolen. And when I was sitting in that bed, I had a light bulb moment. If these pills are supposed to do the exact opposite of what I am feeling now, what good are they? And so I put them down, all of them, 8, 9, 10 bottles, whatever they were. Never touched them again. Now, I do not advocate for going off of, medications like that, just cold turkey. Absolutely not. You could have some horrifically debilitating side effects. I'm one of the lucky ones. I was able to pull myself through it. But when my brain finally cleared up, I could see color again. I'm not I mean, it seems weird, but when your brain is in such a fog all the time, you don't really perceive these things like people normally do. The color, the vibrancy, it's just not there. And so when I went out to see my counselor about a week later, I noticed a business that I had been looking for about a year was quite literally across the street and down a couple storefronts. I'd never seen it. I was way too doped up. And there it was. So after the counseling session, and then after another week and a half went by, I saw a psychiatrist for med review. He is the only one. Dr. Lippman, thank you. You saved my life. He's the only one that listened. And he agreed with me that I didn't need any of them because he had about 1.5 to 2 feet of paper medical charts on his desk. And he said he'd been through every single one. And he found not a shred of evidence that I ever had bipolar to begin with, which is what I was originally misdiagnosed with. And when somebody listens to you, that is the most powerful gift you can give someone. And I was lucky he actually had an intern in his office and she saw everything. And I hope she uses that experience to really listen to her patients because she also could save a life. But when I finally came out of that fog, when I finally had a psychiatrist to listen, when I finally had my counselor say, if you were not in front of me right now, I would never believe it was you. Things start happening. And so I started focusing on getting my weight down. I was 350 pounds at that time. I was absolutely miserable. And now I'm finally in my 190s. I feel amazing. So yeah, I have implemented nutrition. I have implemented activity. I have implemented journaling. I have implemented meditation, Reiki. What else? Qigong. I've done so many different healing modalities, whether it's sound baths or hypnosis. There's just been so much that I have tried in my healing. And when I finally, let's say, started accelerating that healing, because I was doing more than one, I started just rapidly getting better. And I remember asking, let's say, asking the universe one day, I know I'm here for more. I know I have a story that can inspire others. I know I'm not the only one. What can I do? How can I serve? How can I help? And that's when, I guess you could say, I was gifted. My purpose, my path, my mission, my calling was finally revealed. And that's how I know that this will ultimately become a successful endeavor. I do not have a plan B. I never will have a plan B. I will never have an escape route, because I know, like I know, that this is the way, this is the path, this is the future of healing ourselves.
Well, after watching this podcast, people may want to reach out to you and ask you questions. Are you open to that?
Absolutely. I would love it if anyone really reached out, started asking questions. My website is dawninginstitute.com. So dawning, so ing, like the dawning of a new day. So dawninginstitute.com. And my email is info@dawninginstitute.com. I am seeking other service providers. So whether you are a financial wellness planner, whether you are in physical fitness, whether you have gifts of, art therapy, music therapy, light therapy, any kind of teaching, any kind of healing modality, I would love to have a discussion with you. Your gifts are needed. And I am currently looking to put together an office space so we can all come in and we can all share in this vision.
Kathryn, before we finish up, can you leave us with one last positive message?
There's a quote that I saw on a movie from Alan Turing. And I don't think I'm going to quote it quite right, so please forgive me on that. But he said, sometimes it's the very people who people think nothing of are the ones that do things no one could ever imagine. I am one of those anomalies, and I know that there are so many more, and it may be even a few of you watching or listening that fit into that category as well. And I just want to let you know that you are seen, you are heard, you are valued, and you are needed.
Kathryn, thank you for your message, and thank you for being my guest.
Thank you so much, Jeff. I truly appreciated your time.
Thanks for watching the JeffMara podcast. I really appreciate you. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. And if you do, there are loyalty badges and other perks depending on your level of membership. All you need to do is click the join button underneath the video to find out more. Thank you for your support.